2:45 p.m. local time, Eastern Pacific, open water, clear visibility. Inside the ship's operations center, everything begins like any other patrol. Radar sweeps quietly across the horizon. Contacts appear steady and routine. Nothing stands out. The USS Sampson is following a standard patrol route through a well-known transit corridor, scanning hundreds of miles of open ocean with calm precision. Then one contact starts to behave differently. At first, the change is subtle. A small surface return, low in the water, moving close to the wave tops. But its speed profile does not match normal civilian traffic. The acceleration is not gradual. It jumps from slow movement to full power in seconds. The radar operator marks it immediately. Long range, bearing steady, speed increasing fast. Within moments, more warning signs appear. No AIS signal, no registered call sign, no answer to bridge communication attempts. The craft is not simply moving quickly. It is moving with purpose, straight through a corridor, often used for long-distance, unauthorized runs. Inside the operations center, the atmosphere changes. Displays update. Sensors narrow their focus. Optical cameras begin turning toward the contact's projected path. Then the visual feed confirms what the data has been suggesting. On the forward camera, dark objects slide off the rear of the vessel. One after another, small, heavy packages strike the surface, skip across the water, and vanish beneath the swell. That is not fuel. That is not equipment. That is cargo being thrown overboard. For half a second, the room goes completely still. Not from confusion, but from recognition. Everyone watching knows the pattern. Low profile, narrow hull, multiple powerful outboard engines. A classic high-speed runner designed for one purpose only. The vessel continues to accelerate, carving a bright white wake across the blue water. It is trying to outrun attention. It is trying to outrun authority. But the moment it began dumping cargo, the situation changed. On the bridge, the commanding officer stays calm. There is no need to raise his voice. The information is clear. Unidentified vessel, no cooperation, suspicious cargo disposal, and a route that matches known illegal transport patterns in international waters. This is no longer simple observation. The order comes down steady and controlled. Set condition 3. Prepare the helicopter. Across the ship, the response is immediate. Doors secure. Stations are manned. The ship holds its course because it does not need to chase. Its job now is coordination, control, and command of the wider scene. Down on the flight deck, the helicopter crew is already moving. Rotors unfold, fuel lines are cleared, systems come alive. There is no panic, no wasted motion, only practiced routine built through years of repetition. Back inside the operations center, the radar track is solid. Speed confirmed. Heading confirmed. The small craft is running at full power, but the ocean gives it no advantage. No cover, no terrain, no place to disappear. Another burst of objects splashes into the sea behind it. More cargo is thrown overboard, faster this time, less controlled. That detail says everything. The people on board know they have been spotted. They are trying to reduce weight, trying to buy speed, trying to buy time. They are not going to get either. At 2:48 p.m., the flight deck reports ready. The helicopter rises smoothly from the deck and banks toward the intercept path, flying low over the water. From above, the ocean becomes a wide, open map. Every wake stands out. Every turn is visible. Every decision leaves a trace. The ship feeds updated data directly to the aircraft. Range, bearing, speed, and heading, all changing in real time. This is not a chase anymore. It is a controlled convergence. Below, the high-speed craft keeps running. Above, the helicopter closes the distance. And for the people on that small vessel, still tossing valuable cargo into the sea, one reality is becoming impossible to avoid. There is no coastline ahead, no safe harbor behind, no hidden route left. What started as a routine patrol has now moved from watching to action, and the next phase is already underway. 2:49 p.m. local time. The MH-60R Seahawk drops to low altitude and accelerates, its rotor blades cutting through the thick Pacific air. From 200 feet above the water, the ocean turns into a grid of motion. Wakes, angles, speed, and direction. Nothing hides well from this height, especially not a boat running at maximum power. The aircraft's infrared system locks on almost instantly. The engines glow hot on the display, pushed hard and running well beyond normal limits. Against the cooler surface of the sea, the suspect vessel stands out clearly, a narrow hull skipping across the swells as if barely touching the water. Below, the craft makes its next move. A sharp turn to port, then another to starboard. It begins zigzagging hard, trying to make the intercept more difficult. It is a familiar tactic. Make the aircraft overshoot, create confusion, gain a few seconds. And when someone is trying to vanish into open water, a few seconds can feel valuable. But this helicopter was not launched as a warning gesture. From the cabin door, the crew has a clear view of everything below. The vessel's movements are tracked continuously, while onboard sensors keep a steady lock. The Seahawk is not only watching, it is documenting every course change, every object thrown overboard, every attempt to avoid interception. The pilot brings the aircraft even lower, skimming just above the wave tops. Rotor Wash throws white spray into the air. The sound carries across the water, deep and unmistakable. The message is impossible to miss. You have been found. The aircraft makes its first pass alongside the suspect vessel, offset but close enough to be understood. Over open radio frequencies, the warning is delivered in a calm, firm voice. Unidentified vessel, you are operating in international waters. Reduce speed and stop immediately. There is no reply, no radio call, no slowdown, no sign of cooperation. Instead, more cargo is thrown into the sea. This time, the movements are rushed and careless. One package clips the side of the hull on the way down and breaks apart as it hits the water. A pale burst spreads across the surface before disappearing into the wake. Even without testing, the message is clear. The situation has moved to another level. From above, the Seahawk adjusts position again, tightening the angle of approach. It holds just off the vessel's rear quarter, close enough that every person on board knows they are being watched. Close enough that the only option left is to keep running straight. But running straight will not help them. Back aboard the destroyer, the operations center follows the entire sequence in real time. The distance is shrinking. The speed advantage is disappearing. The geometry now belongs completely to the aircraft. The order from the bridge is exact. Escalate the warning. The Seahawk banks left and drops lower once more. This time, the crew sends a clear warning into the water ahead of the vessel, just off the starboard side. Tall plumes of spray rise from the surface close enough to be unmistakable, but placed safely away from the people on board. The meaning is immediate. This is not a drill. This is not simple observation. This is a lawful order to stop. The vessel still does not comply. It surges forward instead. Engines straining, wake widening, hull shaking under the pressure. The person at the controls pushes the motors to their limit. It no longer looks calculated. It looks like panic. Inside the helicopter, the crew does not need to say much. The warning phase has ended. The pilot brings the Seahawk around for another pass, tighter than before. Lower, slower, closer. The stern of the vessel fills the camera view. 3 outboard engines are exposed at the rear, uncovered and vulnerable. On the destroyer, the commanding officer watches the feed. The conditions are clear: continued flight, refusal to comply, destruction of evidence, and a growing risk on the water. The next step is authorized. Disable the engines. The helicopter shifts into position. The crew member steadies. There is no hesitation and no unnecessary force, only a precise, controlled action. A short burst strikes the outboard motors. One engine sparks hard. Another coughs, loses power, and shuts down. Smoke rises from the stern as the vessel lurches sharply to one side. Its speed drops almost instantly. The wake collapses behind it. The chase is over. The high-speed craft slows into a helpless drift, stopped in open water with smoke trailing from the rear. Moments later, hands appear above the deck, raised, empty, visible. From overhead, the Seahawk holds position, circling steadily. No more warnings are needed. No more movement follows. For the first time since 2:45 p.m., the situation begins to calm. Not because the vessel chose to cooperate at the start, but because control has finally been established. The next phase will not be about speed. It will not be about pressure from the air. It will be about boarding, evidence, and legal procedure. And it is already on the way. 3:01 p.m. local time. The suspect vessel drifts without power, its engines disabled and smoke thinning into the warm Pacific air. Above it, the Seahawk maintains a steady orbit. Sensors remain locked. Cameras continue recording. Nothing below moves unseen. The crew of the high-speed boat is no longer running. They kneel on the deck with their hands raised, eyes fixed upward. The adrenaline that carried the escape attempt has faded. What remains is exposure. Out here, the ocean offers no shadows. Along the port side of the USS Sampson, 2 RHIBs hit the water and surge forward. Their engines rise in pitch as they peel away from the ship's hull, accelerating toward the disabled craft. The transition is smooth. Air control becomes surface control. Surveillance becomes custody. This is where the mission changes character. Protective equipment is still present, but it is no longer the focus. Authority now comes from procedure, training, and the law. The RHIBs close the distance quickly, white wakes cutting across the surface behind them. A Coast Guard law enforcement team rides with the Navy boarding crews, fully equipped, clearly identified, and legally authorized. This handoff was prepared before the helicopter ever left the deck. As the RHIBs pull alongside, commands carry across the water. Firm, controlled, bilingual, hands visible, remain still. No sudden movement. The suspects comply right away. No resistance, no hesitation. Two men, both appearing to be in their mid-30s, sunburned and drained, kneel on the wet fiberglass deck with their hands visible. There are no dangerous items in sight, but at this point, nothing in their hands matters as much as what is floating all around them. Nearby, drifting in the swell, tightly wrapped bundles rise and fall with the water. Dozens of them. Some still intact, others torn open from the rushed attempt to throw them overboard. Every bundle that appears is marked, photographed, and logged immediately. The boarding team moves with quiet precision. One sailor keeps watch, another secures the suspects. A third begins the first safety check of the vessel. What they find confirms the entire profile. No flag, no registration, no working radio, no life jackets, no navigation lights. This boat was never built for a normal return trip. A field test kit is opened aboard the RHIB. A small sample is taken from one of the soaked bricks. A white substance appears inside. Seconds later, the test strip changes color. The result is clear: a controlled illegal substance. By the time the message goes back to the destroyer, the recovery count is already moving fast. 47 bales are pulled from the water and from the vessel itself. The total weight is estimated at roughly 3,400 pounds. The wholesale value is placed at about $58 million. In the world of illegal ocean transport, that is not just a failed delivery, that is a major loss. The suspects are restrained and informed of their rights under maritime enforcement procedures. They remain silent. They do not need to explain anything. The evidence around them already tells the story. Under international maritime law, a vessel with no nationality, no registration claim, and no cooperation with lawful orders can fall under U.S. jurisdiction when involved in illegal activity on the high seas. With the facts documented, authority transfers fully to the Coast Guard team. The legal chain is clean. Recorded from the air, tracked from the ship, confirmed by the boarding crew. There is no confusion about what happened. Once the suspects are secure, the focus returns to the boat itself. The damage is serious. The engines are destroyed. The hull is cracked along the keel. Fuel is leaking into the water. There is no bilge pump, no anchor, and no safe way to tow it across hundreds of miles of open ocean. It is no longer just useless. It is a hazard. One strong swell could send it drifting into a commercial vessel, a fishing boat, or anything crossing the area at night. Leaving it loose in the water is not an option. The boarding officer makes the assessment official. Vessel unseaworthy. Recommend controlled disposal. Back aboard the USS Sampson, the commanding officer receives the report and gives a simple acknowledgement. No argument, no delay. Log it. Prepare for disposal at sea. The seized cargo is transferred, tagged, sealed, and moved into secure storage. The detainees are escorted below decks. Medical checks are completed. Every step is handled by procedure. What began as a single radar contact at 2:45 p.m. has now become a fully documented interdiction. Suspects detained, illegal cargo recovered, legal authority established. But the mission is not over yet. The ocean does not keep trophies. Before the day ends, the final chapter will not be about speed, pursuit, or pressure from above. It will be about quiet control and deliberate closure. 3:45 p.m. local time. The suspect vessel sits low in the water near the destroyer's port quarter, held by a single recovery line. Up close, its condition looks even worse than expected. The fiberglass is split wide along the keel. The engine mounts are bent out of shape. A thin oil sheen spreads slowly across the surface. This boat is no longer useful as evidence. It is now a danger to navigation. Out here, hundreds of miles from land, mistakes can travel a long way. An abandoned hull can drift for days or even weeks before crossing the path of something larger. A merchant ship, a fishing trawler, or a tanker moving through the dark. Leaving it afloat would create risk long after the operation is finished. The Coast Guard officer aboard the destroyer makes the final determination. Unseaworthy, unsafe to tow. Recommend controlled disposal at sea. There is no disagreement. This is not about punishment. It is not about making a scene. It is about maritime safety and responsibility. Preparation begins immediately. The boarding team removes anything reusable or sensitive. Fuel cans are taken off. Mounting hardware is detached. Loose equipment is recovered. The deck is cleared down to bare fiberglass. Nothing remains on board unless it has to. The recovered bales are already secured deep inside the destroyer. Each one has been logged. Each one has been sealed. The chain of custody remains intact from the waterline to the evidence locker. That part of the mission is complete. Now comes the part no one celebrates. A RHIB returns alongside the damaged vessel carrying a small controlled charge package. It is simple, precise, and carefully placed. It is not meant for drama. It is meant to open the hull below the waterline and allow the sea to finish the job. The package is placed near the stern, where the damage is already severe. The timer is set. The recovery line is checked one final time. Above, the Seahawk continues its quiet orbit. Its cameras keep recording everything, not for attention, but for accountability. At 4:12 p.m., the bridge receives the final report. Area clear, ready for controlled disposal. The commanding officer looks out across the water. There is no speech, no dramatic pause, only a calm acknowledgement. Proceed. The call is passed down the line. Execute on mark. Mark. There is no dramatic blast, no towering flame, no thunder across the sea. Just a low, muffled thud, almost swallowed by the steady sound of the ship. A few seconds later, water begins entering the damaged hull. The boat tilts slightly, then leans harder. Air escapes from under the deck in a series of hollow, bubbling sounds. The stern goes first. The bow lifts for a moment, revealing chipped paint, scraped fiberglass, and the last visible sign of a run that ended in failure. Then it slips under the surface. In less than a minute, the ocean closes over it completely. The water settles. The surface smooths out. Nothing dangerous is left drifting free. It is finished. For the crew, the moment passes without ceremony. Watches resume. Logs are updated. Systems return to normal monitoring. The destroyer does not remain in place longer than necessary. This was never about making a spectacle. It was about closing the operation safely. What remains is the result. An estimated $58 million worth of illegal cargo will never reach land. 2 suspects are now in custody. One major transport route has been identified, documented, and disrupted. Somewhere far away, a supply chain has just failed without warning, and none of it required excess. No unnecessary escalation, no dramatic show of force, no action beyond what the situation demanded. This is what disciplined maritime power looks like. A warship built for high-end defense shifted roles in minutes. Surveillance platform, command center, aviation base, and support vessel for lawful maritime enforcement. All in a single afternoon. The ocean is quiet again. Radar screens return to clean, steady sweeps. No fast-moving contacts, no strange patterns, no immediate threats. But the message has already traveled far beyond the horizon. Out here, speed does not guarantee safety. Distance does not guarantee anonymity. And when the United States Navy arrives, it does not chase blindly. It tracks, it controls, it intercepts. 4:30 p.m. local time. The Pacific has returned to its natural state, calm, wide, and indifferent. Where the high-speed craft once drifted, only a faint disturbance remains, already fading into the surrounding water. On radar, the contact is gone. The track is closed. For the USS Sampson, the mission has not ended. It has simply changed. Below decks, the 2 detainees sit quietly under watch. Medical checks are complete. Their rights have been read. No statements have been given. They do not resist. They do not argue. There is nothing left to negotiate. Out here, the facts are clear. In secure storage, 47 recovered bales of illegal cargo are logged and checked again. Each package is weighed, sealed, and documented. The chain of custody remains tight from recovery to storage. Every step recorded for the legal process that comes next. This is the part most people never see. No sirens, no victory music, no raised voices, just procedure. And procedure is what turns a successful interdiction into a case that can hold up later. The destroyer resumes its patrol track, engines steady, sensors wide. The Pacific Watch does not pause because one boat has been stopped. It exists because there are many more like it, moving along routes built on timing, distance, and the belief that the open ocean is too vast to monitor. That belief is no longer safe. Pacific Watch is not about randomly chasing small boats across open water. It is a layered effort built on intelligence, surveillance, presence, and timing. Its purpose is to disrupt illegal transport corridors long before they approach any coastline. Ships like Sampson are not there by accident. They are positioned with intent, guided by patterns, data, and years of analysis. The suspects never saw the full net. They only felt it when it closed. For the crew, the operation was routine, not because it was easy, but because it had been rehearsed. Every step followed doctrine shaped over decades. Detect, identify, warn, escalate only when required. Use restraint, transfer authority, document everything. No shortcuts. That discipline matters, especially in international waters where every decision may later be reviewed in court, discussed through diplomatic channels, or questioned in public. That is why warnings are recorded. That is why every action is controlled. That is why every decision is recorded as it happens. The purpose is not fear. It is credibility. And in operations like this, credibility is the strongest deterrent there is. Somewhere else in the Pacific, others watching this corridor will understand what happened. Not because a small vessel disappeared beneath the surface, but because it was detected. Because it was stopped with control. Because once the process began, there was no open door left. Criminal transport networks depend on probability. They rely on the belief that most runs will slip through, that enforcement is too slow, too spread out, or too far away to matter. But every interdiction like this changes the calculation. One lost shipment is not just a financial setback, it weakens trust. It disrupts schedules. It exposes routes. It forces crews to be replaced, plans to be rewritten, and risk to be measured all over again. And in that world, risk is everything. The USS Sampson was built for complex naval missions, from tracking threats beneath the surface to defending against high-speed dangers from above. But on this day, its role changed completely. It became a surveillance platform, a command center, an aviation base, and a support vessel for maritime law enforcement. That flexibility is not accidental. It is part of modern naval doctrine. Today's warships are expected to shift from one mission to another without losing focus, discipline, or effectiveness. This operation showed exactly what that looks like in practice. No unnecessary escalation, no loss of life, an estimated $58 million worth of illegal cargo removed from the supply chain. A route disrupted, a message delivered. As the sun begins to sink toward the horizon, the destroyer continues on course. Watches rotate. The operations center settles back into its steady rhythm. Another patrol leg begins. Out here, the ocean never announces what comes next. But the Navy is already watching, and the lesson from this afternoon is clear for anyone paying attention. If you move illegal cargo across international waters, speed will not guarantee safety. Distance will not make you invisible. And once a U.S. Navy destroyer commits to an intercept, the outcome is no longer yours to control. The sea is wide, but it is not empty, and there is nowhere to disappear.